Hello everyone. Having a sense of autonomy in your life is a vital part of psychological well-being. So how do we maintain mental wellness in circumstances where our autonomy is taken away from us? I'm going to explore my experience with this using my current house arrest situation and my upcoming parole hearing as an example. And I'm going to talk about what I do to stay mentally healthy in spite of living with major infringements on my autonomy. But real quick, if you're new here, I'm Brian. I was a trauma ICU RN, and then I became a full-time heroin and meth addict. I was arrested for selling drugs. I'm currently on house arrest, serving out the rest of my 3 to 10 year prison sentence. This channel is just a way for me to share with you what I've learned after having lived an addicted life, as well as what I'm doing to live with meaning and balance going forward. So welcome. What is autonomy? Autonomy is really just the ability or right to self-govern. It's the right to make your own decisions about what you're going to do rather than being manipulated or coerced to do otherwise. It means you have a choice and a voice. So, given that, how do we lose autonomy? We lose it when something takes over the decision making with regard to some aspect of our lives. This could be another person or a group of people. It could also be a circumstance, like an illness, say, where you are left disabled or debilitated in some way. These things, like other people taking away your autonomy, illnesses, whatever, are very overt losses of autonomy. But there are also much more subtle, less obvious ways that we forfeit our autonomy that are much more insidious. My current situation is the perfect example of a very overt loss of autonomy. Literally, captured one day by some people and taken to a place where they put you in a cage, and then what they do with you from there is entirely up to them. That's the situation I've been in for coming up on 3 years now, and it's progressed from that cage to this house arrest situation, right? Where I basically am in this house and I cannot leave the house unless I have specific permission from them to leave for some specific reason that they are okay with or that they require. So my autonomy has been greatly stripped down on the overt level, right? What I get to decide to do day to day as far as interacting with the world goes. Spending long periods of time with even such basic choices taken away from you as whether or not you can leave a room or not can be kind of psychologically mutating. It can be pretty mentally destructive. It's very dehumanizing, demoralizing, and depending on where you're at in your own psychology when you encounter situations like this, I've seen different people have really different responses to it, and some don't do well with it at all. It can really break you down. However, for me personally, as I've been marinating in this overt loss of autonomy for just about 3 years now, I have become acquainted with this deeper layer to autonomy. The more subtle, less obvious, less overt kind of autonomy. So this is what I've discovered throughout my incarceration experience. Back before, when I was a free person, I actually experienced less real autonomy in my day-to-day life than I have since I've been locked up. Why? Because the overt infringements on my autonomy that were imposed by the criminal justice system were ultimately not as oppressive, I realized, as the self-imposed loss of autonomy that was the result of my lack of self-awareness. That was the result of my impoverished opinion of myself. That was the result of my crippling attachment to self-destructive behaviors and habits. Here's the thing. As the Stoic philosophers point out, you don't ever actually have control over anything other than how you choose to show up moment to moment. The ability to engage in truly autonomous behavior is directly correlated with the degree of awareness that you are able to bring to any given moment. The true wellspring of autonomy is your ability to direct your attention. Without that, it doesn't matter how free you are in your life's circumstance. You are just adrift on the currents of outside circumstances and compulsive desires. One of the most important lessons, again, that I learned from all this is that everything is ultimately out of my control, except for my ability to choose where I direct my attention. And subsequently, the way that I show up and conduct myself in my day-to-day life. I think the reason that this topic of autonomy is coming up for me now is because my parole hearing is about to happen in about 10 days. And at the parole hearing, they're going to decide whether or not they're going to take this ankle monitor off in September or leave me on it for an indefinite amount of time longer. As this hearing approaches, I'm realizing that the uncertainty aspect of this feels like a way deeper violation of my autonomy, of my overt autonomy, than anything else that has come before. It's just such a psychological mind game that seems so unnecessary. I don't know why they do it like this, but whatever. It's been stirring all these feelings up for me, I think, and that's why I'm thinking about this. But as I've thought about it and marinated in this experience over the last few weeks, I am realizing again that everything in life is uncertain. I might not even make it to the parole hearing. Could get in a accident and whatever. I might not even live another 10 days. Anything can happen. Everything, again, is ultimately outside of my control, other than the way that I direct my attention, what I choose to invest my attention in, and how I conduct myself and show up in my own moment-to-moment, day-to-day life. How I am showing up in my day-to-day life is my primary concern in my life now. That's what I'm working on. That's where I work from. And that's how I don't let all of this other Department of Corrections stuff really get to me. The way that I see it really get to other people. If they deny me at the parole hearing and make me stay on the thing longer, I'll be annoyed because of the principle of the thing, but it's not going to really get me any deeper than that. Because, again, my concern is my day-to-day life. And as long as I'm dialed in on my day-to-day life, then I am good. I am good. Whatever else happens, it'll happen when it happens, and we're good. But in the face of this big uncertainty, this thing that I have zero control over, I have decided to make a commitment to capitalize on the autonomy that I do have, and this is what I am going to do. I'm making a 90-day commitment to myself. It's starting on the 17th of this month, so next week. The reason I'm starting then is because that will be the 90-day mark until they take the ankle monitor off, if they do say yes, that they are going to take it off. So for the final 90 days of my confinement after 3 years, I wanted to do something to really hone myself in, dial my attention, condition my mind for the next phase of my life. And what I'm going to do is just dial in my day-to-day and run a perfect program, a perfect day-to-day program for 90 days, just to kind of see what it does to me, to see how I feel at the end of it. Hopefully at the end of it, I'll be getting off of house arrest, and it'll be a really good state of mind for me to go into the next chapter of my life. And if they say no, it'll be good for me to, do it anyway, so that I'll have 90 days of focus to keep my mind straight for that no decision, so I don't freak out or something. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of what I'm doing day to day in the future videos, but for now I'm just going to tell you what it is basically that I'm committing to. I'm committing to waking up and going to sleep at the same exact time every day, no matter what. That will be 6 a.m. up, 10:30 p.m. bed. I'm committing to eating my diet perfectly. I just got off 30 days today. I had a little burger today, and then next week I'm gonna go back on it for the 90 days. Perfect diet, just my regular diet that I eat nothing else. I'm going to only eat between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. and then kind of do an intermittent fasting thing the rest of the time. I'm going to do my daily exercise routine every single day. I have a little exercise routine that I do, or a few different exercise routines, and I'm going to make sure I do one of those every single day. I also recently read a book by Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism, which has inspired me to really do a digital detox. I want to eliminate all of the unnecessary screen time in my day-to-day experience. I also want to eliminate a lot of just the distractions from the devices that fragment my attention. I've been noticing that's a lot of my attention fragmenting lately has come from the devices. So I'm going to be very deliberate about my communication. I'm going to condense all of my texting, emailing, phone calling into a very specific portion of the day, probably right after work, maybe a 15 to 30 minute window. And I'm going to reserve longer calls for specific times that I schedule. Nothing random unless it's an emergency. Obviously, I have to make an exception if my parole officer calls, so I've made a special ring on my phone for her. Otherwise, my screen time is going down to 0 other than making the YouTube videos and doing my YouTube work. As far as audio goes, I'm allowing that always. You know, when I'm at work and stuff, it's the most productive use of my time. When I'm working my, pointless dead-end job, listening to music, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, learning things, this is always okay. So I allow that. That doesn't count as screen time or interacting with my device. And those are my commitments. Outside of that, what I'm going to be doing with my free time is going to be a lot of productive stuff. Lots of meditating, which I love to do. It's my favorite thing to do anyway. Playing guitar, stuff like that. I'll talk more about that and what I'm doing actually in my day-to-day specific schedule in future videos. But that is it. I want to finish these 3 years of incarceration strong. And I want to already be in the midst of a solid practice of living intentionally when this ankle monitor comes off. So I don't just get inadvertently carried away on those currents of outside influences and compulsive desires that everybody's gonna want me to engage in once I get my ankle monitor off. Anyway, just remember that the one thing that you always have control over is how you choose to direct your attention. No one can ever take that away from you, and it's the most powerful tool that you have when it comes to engaging with your life and making your life better and creating the life that you want, regardless of the circumstance that you're in. The song of the week this week is absolutely and unequivocally Square One by Tom Petty. I was reminded about this song earlier this week by my friend Becca. All right, perfect timing, song of the week. Kyle's here. Okay, here, come over here, Kyle.
Okay.
Take this shit off here.
Oh yeah. Get that shit out of there.
This is my buddy Kyle. This is the first time someone else has been on this YouTube channel, I think, ever.
True.
Okay.
Suck it, Joel.
Yeah. There's only one first. We have Kyle Kirch here today. KK. He's been featured on Smiles for Miles multiple times as the Song of the Week artist. Kyle's basically been a dear friend of mine for many, many years. We've been through many, many things together, done many, many drugs together, played many, many gigs together, played music. We started off playing music together years ago. He was good enough to bless me by submitting to a background check so that he could be in this house right now. And I came over and visited. So thank you for being here, Kyle.
Yeah, I was surprised. My rap sheet's long, so
yeah.
I got approved. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Okay, what I was saying to these guys is that the song of the week this week is Square One by Tom Petty. The reason that it's the song of the week is because I was speaking to my friend Becca. We were having a conversation, and thanks, Becca, for this. She shouted out this song. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that song, and it was kind of just vaguely in the back of my head. Yep. The following morning, I'm getting up for work, I'm getting ready, and I'm just like, oh, hey Siri, play Square One by Tom Petty.
Here's Square One by Tom Petty.
I knew that was going to happen. God damn it. Okay. The song came on, and it was just, those moments where you're just ripe for a certain music that is going to hit you. And it just straight into my gut, and I was just like, oh, tears, just wept for all like myself and all of humanity. Yeah, and I've been listening to it like on repeat for like
That's
days.
a good reason as any.
Anyway, since you're here, we might as well do a double song of the week. I think you need to come up with a song of the week as well.
What have I been listening to? My song of the week is a song by Randy Newman, who I've always liked, but I really kind of fell in love with via Conrad when he played that song at your wedding, which is just what song was that? That was Feels Like Home.
Yes.
Beautiful song. There's a song on his album Dark Matter called She Chose Me, and it's just a beautiful song. It's a wonderful song. Yeah, listen to it if you want to just feel some things.
So that's the other song of the week.
She Chose Me by Randy Newman.
Awesome. Well, that's gonna do it for this week's video. Kyle and I are just gonna chill and maybe play some music, or something.
Eat some spices.
Eat some spices. You know, we gotta get rid of.
Get rid of
spices. You know, I gotta minimalize.
Brittany gave Brian too many spices, and now we got to get rid of them.
Yeah, I'm actually not happy with it. I look at the spices every single day, and I'm just like, there's too many spices here, and I just feel bad about throwing them away. I threw away the cinnamon sticks today. I threw away the Chinese 5 spice. I threw away the fucking cloves.
I'm gonna grab the giant cayenne pepper. This is one of the spices.
This is one of the spices.
This is cayenne pepper.
Yeah, I gotta get rid of this.
We got a lot to do.
See you guys later. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.